Hey there, welcome back to Crack the Code. Today, we're starting the intermediate level of our React series. In this episode, we'll explore React hooks, especially useState and useEffect. These are game changers that make functional components super powerful. By the end of this video, you'll be able to manage state and side effects like a pro. What are React hooks? Hooks are special functions that let you hook into React features inside functional components. Before hooks, you needed class components to manage state and lifecycle methods. With hooks, you can write cleaner, shorter code using only functions. Most commonly used hooks: useState and useEffect. useState, manage state in functional components. useEffect, handle side effects like API calls, timers, and subscriptions. Key difference between them: useState right-pointing arrow manages data inside a component. useEffect right-pointing arrow manages side effects, things happening outside render. Real-time coding examples: counter app, increase, decrease, reset using useState, live clock, using useEffect with set interval, weather fetch app, fetch data from an API with useEffect. By the end of this episode, you'll understand how hooks replace class component lifecycles and make your apps simpler and more powerful. React hooks explanation. useState hook. useState is a React hook that lets you add state to functional components. Without it, functional components are stateless. State means data that can change, like counters, inputs, login status. Syntax const, state variable, set state function, equals useState, initial value, state variable right-pointing arrow stores the current value. Set state function right-pointing arrow updates the value. Initial value right-pointing arrow starting value of the state. And here is the live example for useState hook. Next we gonna see about useEffect hook. useEffect lets you run side effects in React components. A side effect is anything that happens outside the component rendering process, like fetching data from an API, running a timer, interval, subscribing to events. Runs after every render by default. Dependencies array controls when it runs. And here is the live example for useEffect hook. Weather app with useEffect plus API calls. What are we learning? How to fetch real-time weather data from an API in React. How to use useState to store data. How useEffect helps in making API calls when a component loads. Part 1. useState and weather example const, weather, set weather, equals useState, loading. Weather right pointing arrow variable that holds the weather info. Initially set to, loading, because we don't have data yet. Set weather right pointing arrow function to update the value once API responds. Part 2. useEffect in weather example. What's happening here? useEffect runs once when the component first loads, because of. We use fetch to call the OpenMeteo API. API gives us a JSON response. We extract the first temperature value right pointing arrow data. Hourly, temperature _ 2 meters, 0. Update weather using set weather. If there's an error right pointing arrow show, failed to load weather. Real world analogy. Imagine you turn on a weather app. At first it says, loading. The app calls the weather server. Once the server replies, the app updates with the actual temperature. Part 3. Displaying weather info. The weather info is shown in the center of the screen. At first right pointing arrow, loading. Later right pointing arrow, temperature, 30 degrees Celsius. Final output, example, weather info. Temperature, 29 degrees Celsius. Awesome! In this episode, we learned two of the most important React hooks. useState to manage state in components. useEffect to handle side effects like timers and API calls. Hooks simplify React apps and make them powerful. In the next episode, we'll explore custom hooks, creating your own reusable logic in React. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Crack the Code. See you in episode 8.